Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another Kubernetes Infra meeting. It is March 29th. We adhere to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which boils down to be nice to each other, don't be a jerk. I will be partially your host this wonderful afternoon or evening, at least until halfway past the hour, because then I have to disappear. And then I think Ben will take over, or Arno. Who knows? Let me share my screen so we can actually all see what we're talking about. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. At a quick glance at the participants, I think I see a bunch of folks that have already been here, but just in case, if you are new, feel free to pop on, say hello, or just say hello in chat. Otherwise, we will move right on. Quick billing review. Honestly, I think the best thing to do is to pull up what Ben posted earlier today, which in a nutshell, early numbers of the K8s Infra site are great. Monday the 27th back to Tuesday the 21st, we were at $48,262. On Friday, or only Friday the 24th and forward had major cost savings, which was the first redirect rollout. P.S. This is all in the SIG K8s Infra Slack. Saturday the 25th capped off the first 12 weeks at $857,652. That is January 1st to March 25th. That is a $2.5 million run rate, which is enough for us to be at $2.79 million projected end of year with the redirect. Am I correct, Ben?
Yeah. And that's based on taking the cost for the first 12 weeks, which are the weeks that are complete, and then projecting forward based on the most recent full week of complete data. And we're using weeks because we have different traffic between weeks and weekends. So that's a pretty good estimate, I think. And so we should already be under, and that's without even having a whole week of reduced traffic in that past week of data. And we're reducing it further as we speak.
That's kind of crazy. And I believe, as they say, knocks the ball out of the park. Yay. Given all of that, that doesn't mean the problem is solved. It just means that we don't necessarily have a giant axe over our necks for the next, 7 months? Something like that.
It's pretty solved because next year we won't have the beginning of the year at the worst rate unless we regress on some other axes. We have a tougher problem this year because of the early months where we're really over budget.
I suppose the other thing though that I won't consider it solved until we are sure we're not going to run out of budget and we have restored scale tests, even if we have scale tests in both GCP and AWS.
To be fair, we also kind of targeted which scale tests. We're running some scale tests less frequently, but still like every other day instead of daily. And we removed scale pre-submit, and we're evaluating if that's even actually necessary. SIG, with my SIG testing hat on, we really only want to be running pre-submits if they're catching things that would wind up breaking in release blocking CI all the time. If it's destroying release blocking CI signal and we're missing things all the time that we could have caught before they merged, then we want to do that. If it breaks something like once a release, then it's working as intended to just test it in release blocking, track down the issue, and fix it. So far, I think that's actually going pretty fine, and there's no indication that we've had a major regression in catching bugs. We'll have a better idea when we're in a different part of the release cycle where we're more freely merging things.
Got it. Still, that is freaking sweet. Another thing that I do want to point out, and this is within the thread in Slack, but as you said, for additional context, we went into this year with January data suggesting we were going to be projected at spending $4 million on a $3 million budget. Up until the registry redirect, we had managed to cut enough costs to bring us down to around 3.4 million. So we were still over, but even before this redirect, we had cut a lot of costs, and now this will, again, fingers crossed, once data is firmly in our hands, make it so that it's not a giant dumpster fire of a budget. Yay.
I don't want to call it more specifically yet until we actually have the data, but
Right.
you could make some early estimates based on looking at the 2 weekdays we have and the weekends we have and comparing to past days, without even accounting for increased traffic reduction. And it should be a lot lower even than what we're staying here. And as of yet, we don't have any reason that we would need to revert or anything like that. So the other thing I've been negotiating is I'm hoping worst case, if something crops up this week with the increased redirect, we just fall back to the other one, and the other one should already be more than enough to put us comfortably under budget.
Knock on wood. Cool. Any other budgetary questions?
If you want to, I can speak a little to the graphs.
Sure.
The cool graph is the top one, week number 12. The green and the blue bar is how much we actually spend, and the green bar is how much we need to spend to be able to be under 3 million. And this week we actually came under by $12. So if only that keeps going, we will have $500 in our pocket by the end of the year. But with all the savings coming, I think it's going to look way better. And then also the bottom right graph is also a nice one, showing that we just about every other week we move out by another week. So at the moment we'll run out of money on the 21st of October, assuming year-to-date spend continue, which it wouldn't. As Ben pointed out, we're radically under. So I am excited to update the graphs next week Sunday, or this week's coming Sunday. We will update again and we'll see where we're going.
Of course, I was muted. That was awesome. Thank you for that update as well. Of note, welcome our cook. I assume Ryan, but maybe I'm wrong. Oh yeah, Ryan Cook. Thank you for joining. Carson, I saw your question. I'm going to throw it at the end of open discussion. Is there any other budget stuff that we want to talk about before we move on to new pricing change? Did it actually switch to the new tab? Is Zoom smart or is Zoom dumb?
We can see it.
Cool. Ben, I'm just going to ask you to talk to this because it's Google.
It would help if I had more of this off the top of my head. Sorry, I'm a little bit frazzled. I've been following the redirect.
I'm just here to make your life
nearline. Oh,
rough.
this. Yes, I remember this. So this is an at-rest pricing increase. It primarily affects nearline and cold line, which we do not use anywhere in the project. There is also standard storage increases in some regions, but it's like fairly negligible, and storage doesn't dominate our costs at all.
So something to be aware of, but not something that's going to like.
We should not experience any real issues with the budget from this, but like this is the kind of thing that we need to be tracking.
Yeah. Okay.
GV Arno has his hand up.
Well, Arno, go.
Yeah, I'm the one that put that basically link because I noticed there's an increase in cost related to any activity in Asia region. So like Ben said, I don't really think we are concerned, but just want to put it out there that if we see something happening in Asia region, we know it's like cost change next week. If you go, I think if on the new SKU, you will say like cost increase just for anything related to Asia. You have to go down to change in the network egress pricing. You see Asia, we go from 1 cent to 8 cents. Also Ocean, Australia and Energy Relay, we also go from 1 cent to 8 cents. So we have to be a little careful.
I don't expect this to be a massive issue. Like most of our traffic, like the US region is larger than EU and Asia combined for the registry, and Asia being the smallest. We have comparatively small amount of traffic there on either endpoint, but you know, something we have to keep an eye on. And just, you know, it's good to have the SIG reviewing this kind of announcement to products that we use heavily. Cloud storage definitely being one of them at the moment. We also have some more options if we find later this year that we're not at a comfortable place. For example, within the SIG, we've acknowledged that this is currently, the redirect is currently restricted to a certain set of images that are aimed at maximizing the cost savings versus risk. We can do further rollouts to expand that list of image. I think that's something we want to do anyhow, but we probably have been discussing, you know, taking a breather once we're solidly well below budget, so we can refocus on things like hardening the registry K8s.io while there aren't other changes in flight, or freezing the GCRs finally. And then we can revisit if we need to make further changes. So if we do see a price increase here, we're again mostly going to see that reflected on K8s GCR.io, and we can up the redirect most likely.
So are we already shifting traffic to the AWS buckets or not?
Yes, a lot. Just the 50% redirect, we saw something like a 40% drop in bandwidth in our regions. The images that are in the list are the most popular images. It also turns out those are the most popular images on Amazon and overrepresented on Amazon. And we're targeting non-GCP traffic approximately because we're trying to capture egress.
Hold on 1 second.
And of that, we see a large increase in AWS. I'm still working on getting access to those metrics directly myself, but there's been some shared screenshots from others. That also, thankfully, is working as intended. It is not a large price increase because we are successfully largely routing to in-region copies, where there's only operations and storage costs. There's no egress, there's no bandwidth charge because it's in the same region.
Yeah, and something that I noticed is even with the significant shift, like the AWS bill hasn't even, like, it's gone up, not a lot.
This is a good thing long term. It's actually a little bit of a problem short term. We need to continue to ramp up actually using those AWS credits this year. I'm going to expect most of that to come from the CI stuff that is also making some progress at the moment.
Yeah. So then I pulled up, like, I think this is the bandwidth graph, and then the one above it was the cost graph.
Yeah. I believe I've been looking at these so much, that's the US graph. You can tell that they have a little bit different traffic patterns. And the volume of it, the 700 megabyte, yeah, that's US. So this is the US bucket behind K8s.GCR.io. There's 3 regions, US, Asia, and EU, that are multi-regions. And this is by far the largest one. You can see when there's 5 peaks in a row and then 2 smaller peaks, those 5 peaks are weekdays. And then the smaller peaks, you'll see that changes quite a bit in the past few days because around the 24th, we started to have the rollout complete from the last rollout, and you can see a huge drop. So even on the 24th, where we hadn't finished doing the rollout, that Friday right there that GFI's hovering over, huge drop peak to peak. That trend is holding, and it should drop even further. And the cost savings are larger than that ratio would suggest, because most of that traffic is egress, and the remaining traffic has a higher proportion of it that is non-egress, that is staying within GCP and is not as expensive. For multiple reasons, including the fact that we're targeting non-GCP traffic, and because the popular images are also particularly with high bandwidth are particularly popular on Amazon, like AWS EBS CSI driver and Node DNS cache. Just between the two of them, I think that's like over 30% of the non-GCP traffic.
So what I'm hearing is we're winning.
It's going well, and we're in close contact with the GCR teams about all this, and continuing to roll out the next phase of redirecting, which should hopefully approximately double what we shifted last time.
Wow.
And
Thank you, Ben
the
and Google
registry
Braves.
infrastructure is also holding just fine. We largely haven't even scaled up the Cloud Run app.
That's really good.
We're mostly seeing increase in logging and network costs, and they're acceptable.
Sweet. Okay, that was a slight unofficial. Oh, thank you for the link. Slight unofficial redirect update, but any questions there? Otherwise, we'll move on to, I believe, Arnaud, you have the next topic.
Yes. So just a reminder that next Monday, which is April 3rd, we're supposed to freeze kgci.io, but Ben brought a conversation about delaying that. So I'm trying to get opinion and trying to also make a decision, because we are 2 work days away from the announced freeze. And I see James is in the call, so I'm trying to see how we can make a decision.
So question here is the tooling not in a good shape for us to do this, or what is the concern here? What are the concerns for not doing the freeze?
Well, the concern is related to a late discovery by Ben about inconsistency in the backend. In the backend registry, we don't have all the signature over all the artifact registry repository. So if we do freeze and we have redirect to the new registry, a user / entity in trying to verify those images might have an issue. I will leave Ben doing the rest of give the details.
So when we planned the freeze, or when other folks planned the freeze, the redirect wasn't a thing. And also the redirect has shifted since then. Because of the skew issue, originally we were going to, at some point we were going to mitigate by only redirecting the blob request, which is again the bandwidth. The problem with that is then the tags are inconsistent and you wind up with broken polls. So we redirect the entire API surface already, which is something we'd want to get to eventually. Because we redirect the entire API surface, that means that the set of images that are available depends on which backend you're hitting fully. So right now, you can use K8s GCR.io for redirected images and you see the new tags available. If we freeze, then if we had to revert the redirect for some reason, now anybody who's using those, the tags disappear and we dig the hole deeper. I'm hoping that we can wait until we're confident that we aren't going to need to retool the redirect so that we don't wind up in some kind of inconsistent state. I think we're nearing that, but we're in the middle of another major rollout there, and I don't have explicit agreement from everyone what happens if we do find a problem this week exactly. I mean, I will personally, my stance is that we will just go back to last week's rollout, but that actually wasn't agreed to ahead of time, and senior folks are not super available this week. It's basically performance review season this week.
Okay, sounds good. Adolfo?
Yeah, and I was going to just ask something related to coordination with that freeze or possible freeze. We want to start running the jobs to fix that. But so we've been holding on that on the actual jobs because we want to let the rollout finish, or at least get to a state where we can more confidently do so. But does it matter if we, independent of the rollout, does it matter if we fix the signatures before or after the freeze, or?
I think I can take that. It shouldn't. We're not likely to go change the code for the redirect and then switch to only redirecting blobs now, since we already have it out there. And there's a bit of a lift to like get GCR to keep rolling out changes for us, and then new untested code. So the signature thing isn't really the concern. Now the concern I have now is that we can have inconsistent state with normal tags, and I think that its signatures can be fixed at pretty much any point as long as we think that operation is itself, safe.
Okay, so my feeling right now is we don't have to tell anyone that there is no freeze, right? Like, let's everybody have the assumption that there is a freeze and that they have to use the new registry. Like, we are not going to change the comms. It is frozen, but we are giving it some more time. That's the way to take it, right? Let's finish the rollout, Adolfo, and then we can go look at what the inconsistencies are and how to fix them. If whatever tools changes that we have to make, we might not end up making those tools changes in time for the 127 release, but it's okay. We can do it just after the 127 release. I think we are good. The only thing is, like, we are not going to send comms saying freeze has been lifted or whatever, right? Like, it is frozen. Let's stick to that story, and let's just move on.
Any further comms, I feel like, would just be confusing to literally everybody, because then it's like, well, we were freezing it, but then we're not doing it for this reason, but we'll freeze it eventually. No, like, functionally have everyone treat it as if it's frozen. Ben, hand raised. I'm not sure if Adolfo, your hand was raised again or not.
I just had like one small quickly follow up. So are you comfortable? I mean, Ben and GCR and the rest, if we start running the dry run tests to ensure that we're looking at the proper things and the identities are right, all of those.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think the one thing that got missed here, the inconsistencies are also present in the GCR backing registries. The reason this is a problem for the redirect, though, is you go from one backing registry per like continent to like a bunch of them, and you could wind up mixing two of them if we only did blobs or something like that. So that was the reason that we were concerned there. At this point, I think the only reason I'm concerned is just if you switch regions on either of the registries, redirected or not, you can have inconsistent tag images, but I think we've identified that those are scoped to like known communicated broken releases. So that isn't an immediate concern. And I think whenever SIG release is ready, we can start to repair those. Also, huge +1 to no further comms. I mean, we haven't even acknowledged to outside of the SIG that like we're doing certain images or anything like that, because we really just want people to get ahead of this. And one last point, the schedule called for Monday the 3rd. The redirect should be done with the second rollout by like the end of this week. And going into early next week, somewhere around there, we should be reaching a point where we're like, okay, nothing has cropped up. We're good. I'm not sure if that's literally Monday. We might need a few more days because we are somewhat reliant on people reporting things. We only have so much signal to identify that ourselves, but I can't imagine it slipping more than like a few days, like into like one more week or something.
Agree, Ben. So the fifth wave should hit Friday. Even if it slips over and goes till Monday, Tuesday, that's fine. And like next week, I didn't want to do anything because I wanted to gather data about like how much cost savings and which is the next set of logs that we next set of images that we need to gather and things like that. So I would say the week after that, let's not do anything. And then there is KubeCon week, so we are not going to do anything. So when we get back is when we can start doing something more. But in the meantime, if SIG release wants to do things to try and fix all the signature mismatches and things like that, please go for it and be independent of this, except for, until this wave ends. This wave ends either Friday or like, Monday, Tuesday.
Barring no issues.
Barring no issues, yeah. Yeah.
I also have a small personal plea. I'm out for a week the week before KubeCon. I think I'm doing most of the interfacing between the various groups here, and I'm going to be pretty unavailable. I will be hiking in Yosemite, and I don't expect to have internet access.
Absolutely, Ben. Thank you. Thank you for taking point here. And yes, so when Ben is not around, we're not going to touch it. We're not going to touch anything. So, but however, when you go to KubeCon, just make sure you stick to the story. There is a freeze. Everybody has to go off. You don't know when we are going to delete something or clean up something. So all bets are off if you're using the old registry. So stick to that line and don't change the line on like, there was a freeze, but we are not going to do it right this week, and none of that. Okay. So just stick to the story and we'll be fine.
And if you're watching this recording, it was totally a joke.
Sorry, back to, I think GP was a running point.
You had to drop.
Oh, okay. Arno, back to you.
Yeah, I think we're good. I would just put a comment in the pull request saying we delay freezing. My next point is just saying next meeting we should do annual report and get that done, because I think the deadline is April 24th. So I will dedicate next meeting to write the annual report. So if you are not interested in that, don't come. And next one, I think what was the question in the chat about what's the next things for improvement? That was Carsten, I think. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, I can
Okay.
just vocalize it. So for the recording and stuff, essentially, I caught the, no promise that we're to fire yet, but it's getting past that. So what are going to be the kind of focuses for improvements after that? Now that if we're less concerned about cost savings being the highest priority, what are other high value things in response? And then one response in channel was resource optimization is on top of mind, full ownership of the infrastructure by moving workloads remaining in the Google infrastructure. And just to frame this a little bit, some of this is for my own education and for helping like my colleagues Ryan Cook and other folks about how what it is that we might be able to be helping on or look for ideas to present or demos to bring forward. Basically.
Anyone want to add more things?
Yeah, I think we at some point we have to go back and look at all the issues that we've logged and all the PRs that are stalled, and get back on that horse, Carsten. So at this point, we are able to do a bunch of incoming requests from the community, whether it is GCS buckets or hey, we need importer for images, Netlify redirect URLs and shortcut URLs, new DNS stuff. All those things we've been able to do right now. I think the current set of things that we are doing for multi-cloud is definitely not going to end immediately. It's going to take some time to settle down, right? Like we just talked about, like the first wave of all the images getting pruned will happen, and redirects are happening right now, but then after that, there is going to be one more set of images, and maybe at some point we might want to do more than just redirect. Maybe we'll clean up the older stuff. So there is going to be things that are going to go on for the container images and the CI jobs. We still haven't talked about the CI jobs. Marco, we can talk about it next. So unless you guys talked about it before I came. So that is definitely also there. We still haven't touched the images, debs and RPMs, because that has been low priority right now, because it is still from Google-owned buckets and it's not hitting the wallet, so to say. So those are the primary things. We will need to train more people to take up the things that we are doing right now. Some of those things are manual. One of us has to go apply Terraform updates, things like that. So we need to have a set of people who can, like, in all time zones, who can like answer queries and do things that are needed to be done. That'll free up a few of us, like Arno and myself, to do like the debugging, diagnosis kind of things when something goes wrong or something is not working right. So that is the kind of work that I expect for the rest of the year, so to say, unless there is some other very pressing issue. If somebody's one of the clouds is sunsetting something, or then we might have to scramble and do things again. But I think we are in a good place. We have the 3 million plus 3 million is helping us a lot. And yeah, we might have to do something in Azure. If Azure turns out to be the next set of images are going to Azure, then we might have to start whatever we are doing for AWS, we have to do for Azure as well. Does that help? Okay. Go ahead, Ben.
All of that. I think a big one that is kind of pressing that will help unblock folks like Dims and Arno is right now on GCP, we've got pretty mature tooling for being able to group people into different sets of permissions and audit that and roll that out. And it's fairly automated and has good observability and that sort of thing. Right now, we only have that working with GCP properly. We have some somewhat rudimentary Terraform things for Amazon, but we don't really have great patterns in place to have like observability around the things in Amazon and being able to, just send a PR and add someone to have permission to work on something. Getting a solution to that is going to unblock, I think, a lot of the velocity for any further work on the multi-cloud. I also want to add with some insight into the other things that are still in Google. There's something of a liability, even if they aren't a liability from the bill perspective, just because we have poor tracking of them and we have to make sure that they remain available and that sort of thing. So there's still a fair bit of CI and binary downloads there. And I think CI and binary downloads are the two next big stories, with RPM and Debian packages being a smaller story that I think has a solution coming. we will also want to, as I said, as soon as we think this thing is comfortable, there's a number of cleanups and hardening that will be happening around the registry and like optimizations. And if people are looking for tasks, I can try to see if any of that can be broken off. A lot of that's pretty highly privileged and won't be so easy to delegate, but should enable better delegation in the future.
That was fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad we got a recording of all that too.
For this question, do we have any comment?
Yeah, if folks are interested, I can provide a quick update on Debian and RPM packages, because this is mentioned quite a few times. So maybe it would be nice to recap where we are actually. So we have it as well. The plan regarding Debian and RPM packages is that we are going to use OpenSUSE service, which is like Open Build service. They're going to sponsor us and give us access to platform and host our packages. So we shouldn't see a problem from the cost perspective or something like that, or maintenance perspective, because they're basically going to do that for us. And this is a really nice thing. But the issue is that their build platform is a little bit different to the way we used to build packages. We had a successful proof of concept, so we know that it is possible to use it. But the problem is that we need some more significant changes to our build tooling, mainly CREL and kubepkg, to make sure that we can generate the Debian and RPM specs and everything else needed, and that we actually connect it to the build pipeline, and that we actually manage stuff like projects, that they have packages, permissions, and stuff like that. So we all have idea, we all have proposal for that. The proposal is merged, CAP is there, but the problem is that we don't really have power to do it at this moment, because a lot of resources are going towards like the CI cluster, the U1, registry migration, communications around that, the problems with signatures, problems with promoter, and all the issues that we have at cutting patch lists. So we had a lot of more priority things that we urgently needed to fix and that need to fix, and therefore still didn't really have time to touch it. Hopefully after KubeCon, this is something that we will start working on more seriously, and that we hope to finish it, let's say, for about 28. The biggest problem with Debian RPM packages is going to be communicating the change and getting users to migrate, because this is going to require some manual migration, and we can't really do what we did for registry redirect, because there's GPG keys, there's stuff like that, and like it's just not possible. So we will see how are we going to handle that, but that's the current status. So that's how are we doing.
Marco, so are the artifacts that get built by the service is going to stay in the SUSE infrastructure?
Yes.
And do they know how much traffic we're going to throw at them?
That's one of the problems, because neither we know, neither they know. Like, we don't have any stats about the current Debian and RPM packages. I have worked better with that to see if that's possible to get, but the answer was no. So it turns out that we will give it a try. They have mirrors all around the world, and they hope that they will be able to serve it. Eventually, we can add our own mirrors. That's not a problem as well, and they will connect our mirrors to their OpenSUSE service. But we are still not really sure how much traffic is that until we don't really see it.
What is a plan B? Will we be able to copy things off of their build service into S3 buckets, for example?
Yeah, that's the idea. So we will probably, if we run into the problem, we will bring up our own mirrors, maybe on AVS, maybe on Equinix Metal or something like that, like distributed, that is going to serve stuff in addition to their mirrors.
Yeah, I am scared to tell them that we'll be, yeah, it's going to be okay, or them, yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, like I'm scared as well.
who are we talking to in SUSE? Which team, or who are the people that we are talking to in SUSE for this?
We are in contact with the OBS team. There is Adrian from OBS, Darix, and I don't remember now who else, but there is release packages POC channel on Slack. You can join it, and we have contact with SUSE folks there.
Okay.
So
yeah, can you throw the names or the Slack channel on my Slack, so I'll go read up the older discussions that you've already had.
Yeah. Okay. I will invite you to the channel.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all I had, Marco.
Okay.
I see Jeremy
Ben.
and raise Ben first, so I will give the mic to Jeremy and next Ben.
I was just going to say the things that I put my hand out, that Marco said. We asked this question when we were talking about things in the POC, and it was pretty clear from their answers that we could run our own mirrors, and it could be on community controlled infrastructure if we needed to, and it wouldn't need to go at all to their things. We can publish and they would be distributed to the mirrors that we control.
Yeah, like I'm not worried about us serving traffic from our side. I'm more worried about we don't want to take them down by the volume of traffic going to them and be bad citizens there, right?
Yeah. They didn't seem like they thought that there would be a problem in general with a large set of traffic, but
yeah, somebody has to pay for it, Jeremy. So
yeah.
When they see the bill, they're probably going to.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I think that's why we were curious if we could run our own mirrors, because
right.
it seems like taking a hard dependency on that service that we don't control is just setting us up to have another bad experience down the road.
Right. We can still do fastly and things like that to hide, and redirect and whatever. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Ben, you next.
Yeah, sorry about the data. These are co-hosted with Google Cloud standard packages like the G Cloud SDK. That's pretty high priv, and I don't remotely have access to that. I tried to track down some folks, but I don't have answers for that yet. And I've been a little more focused on the registry stuff. As far as mirror and throwing traffic at them, it won't be an immediate throwing the traffic. It'll be as users switch, so it's going to ramp up, but that could get us into trouble. I believe we should be able to use, and I think we actually already have apt.k8s.io on the Nginx redirect thing, which is something else we should probably replace at some point. Works fine, and I believe both Debian and RPM packages are you can serve them as just a static snapshot of the repo state. You can stick it in an S3 bucket or something and work fine. So if we go ahead and put our domain in front again, like DL and registry and so on, we can always update to redirect to some other backend that contains a copy and continue to use their build infrastructure. And I think that should be fine. And we should make sure that that's we should make sure that we're planning for that eventuality, and that we, if possible, always bounce things through a domain we control where we can quickly update this.
Yeah, that's basically the plan. We are going to use something like packages, Kubernetes IO or something like that, and it is going to redirect to the OBS service. But eventually, if needed, we can always change to something that we host, and it's not going. It is not supposed to break users, at least not that much.
So one last question I had there, Marco, was who is going to have access to the GPG keys and stuff like that on the OBS side?
So the GPG keys are something that basically only who have physical access to those servers can access. So they have some measures in place that they secure those keys so that that they are safe and secure and stuff like that. And it is managed basically by the OBS platform. So it requires physical access. At least this is what OBS folks told us. I think it is somewhere in the CAP update that we recently worked on. There is a response regarding that from the OBS folks.
Okay, from our side, I'm assuming that
No.
the SIG release leadership has access to the GPG keys.
No, we don't have.
So then who creates the GPG keys and who updates the GPG key when they expire?
That's
the
done by
responsibility
the
of the
OBS team.
service.
Okay.
That's
Thank
the
you.
benefit of using OBS is basically we don't have to care about GPG keys management. The service will generate those and rotate them for us.
Okay.
As long we have the root key, and SUSE and OB has been pretty popular over all the distribution, it should be fine if they do constant rotation over those GPG keys.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add, if you have any questions, there is a release management channel, there is release packages POC channel. Feel to join, feel to ask questions. We will also keep you all updated on progress. But if you have anything in meanwhile, let us know.
Any question regarding this? I see a lot of activity in the chat, so okay. Before we close the meeting, because I think we are 11 minutes left. Yeah, James.
We haven't talked about the status of the EKS Pro cluster yet.
We have 11 minutes left. So do we want to delay that or do we want to talk about, because I feel like there's a lot to be said.
Okay.
I can do a very quick update. I mean, just in 2 minutes. So basically the status is that the cluster is mostly ready. In a way that jobs are running, jobs are passing. We had some flakes. We managed to triage and debug those flakes, mostly related because now we are using bigger instances. So there are more tests running with parallels, and like Go is not really respecting C groups limits, like the stuff that we put on jobs. And we had more stuff running in parallel, but not more resources because we didn't decrease limits on jobs. And that caused some flakes. Now that is fixed, thanks to TED. Next step is probably going to be to add more jobs and to streamline what are we going to do with monitoring stuff. Patrick is doing some great job regarding that. We are still seeing a discussing about like what are next steps. On one of next meetings, we should probably do more in-depth discussion. Actually, are we going to have a meeting before KubeCon? I'm not sure. But we should probably discuss at some point how are we going exactly to handle monitoring. Like we should probably try to merge the monitoring that we have for current clusters and for the new clusters to have everything in the place. But this is something that we will discuss. Overall, we will continue migrating jobs, probably by adding more canary jobs because we don't want to migrate jobs before test freeze doesn't go away. And that's not going to be, that's right before KubeCon, so expect more stuff after KubeCon. But the cluster is working and we are very close to having it complete.
Marco, just as prep work, can we do Bosco's install and make sure that we can hook it up to Bosco's and create some accounts that can be saved in Bosco's?
I have seen an issue for that, and this is probably that's something we can look at it this week or maybe beginning of next week, and try to get it working.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I think it's really early to talk about Bosco right now. We should focus on moving non-iterate tests to AKS before I even talk about Bosco. We should make sure the existing the build cluster we have is ready to move stuff, because we can move a lot of periodic and pre-summit, and that's going to help us reduce further the build before we talk about Bosco's and iterate tests. Okay, next, that's the last item. I got an update about Fastly. So as we know, we reached out to Fastly for binary distribution. In the past, we got a donation from them about 10 terabytes monthly last year. So CNCF signed the service order on the site, and it's been transmitted to Fastly. now we're waiting Fastly to get to approve it. We are ready to go. So I'm hoping by May we can start to plan comms and flip the switch. We're also waiting for increase of the bandwidth because we discover at the late minute that we need a minimum of 7 petabytes per month to be able to serve DL.Gates type. So those things are still pending on the faster side. And I think after that, we are ready to migrate. So I hope by May we issue a communication about migration and we do the flip when we are ready to do the flip. That's it. Anything else? Yeah, in the comment, yes, 5.5 petabyte per month, just for 1 month. So we request 10 petabyte. Hopefully, it's gonna be enough. But if it's not enough, we can request more. We just need to be able to I think it's possible to justify if we basically use the first 10 petabyte and say, oh, over a month, we can demonstrate, we can get an increase of bandwidth again. So that's it. Ben, is it okay to post what you're saying as a graph?
It's in the Slack somewhere actually. We gave like an updated one to Fastly directly to help them understand what the situation is, but somewhere in the K8s Infra Slack we posted before. I don't have the graph handy, but I can tell you that it's similar to the image hosting in terms of the pattern you see, and it peaks at around 1.8 gigabytes a second. Gigabytes. I'm gonna get that wrong. GIB per second. Day. I'm recaffeinating. It's a lot. We did some math and it's around 5.5 petabytes a month, but that's only one. We don't have like we just have like a rolling like about month of data. We don't know historically. So I think 10 should be pretty safe, and hopefully we'll have that soon.
Okay. Anything else before I give you 2 minutes back?
Whoever is going to KubeCon, have fun. I'm sorry I won't be there. I'll miss you all. FOMO already, so enjoy and come back and tell us stories.
You're going to NA, right? Or at least planning to?
LA?
NA, North America.
Oh,
sorry.
NA, yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'll drive on if I have to.
Same, and if you're going, definitely see CNCF's update today about the health and safety updates. I won't be there either, but hopefully NA, and hope you all have fun if you are going.
Okay, going once, going twice. Have a good day, everyone, and bye-bye.
Okay, cheers.
Later.